The next major piece of news coming out of Russia is the absolute and complete collapse of Russia's ruble, which is the currency, RUBLE.
Russian ruble collapse? Wait a minute. Where have I heard of this before?
Economic sanctions against Russia are starting to have an impact. The Russian ruble has plunged to a record low, dropping more than 30% against the US dollar. Russians are scrambling to withdraw money from banks, with long queues forming at cash machines across the country.
Okay, so those reports were from 2 years ago, and I'm being honest, I put it on the screen. But you had reports in 2023 about another ruble collapse, and they usually went something like this.
After President Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year, Russia became the most sanctioned nation on earth. Until now, the Kremlin found ways around the embargoes, but the pain couldn't be avoided forever. On Monday, the ruble fell to its lowest level in 16 months.
I didn't study economics in university, so that might put you off to not wanting to watch this video. But in this video, I wanted to show you the trends of the Russian ruble, because the Western countries have been saying that Russian economy is going to collapse since 2022, and yet here we are. I am not a Russian, but I've been living in Russia since 2022, and I've actually seen now two collapses of the Russian ruble. Well, that's what they call it. And I'm going to experience a third Russian collapse, because I am positive that they will start reporting on the new collapse in this year, in 2024, because once again, the ruble is now trading over 100 rubles per dollar. To help me go through the different trends of the ruble versus the dollar, I'm just going to use the ordinary Google. They track how much the ruble is to the dollar, and it's very simple. Again, I'm not a professional, but we are going to follow the trend. Okay, my friends, so if we actually go to the Google, you can choose by days, which goes up to 5 days, by month, 6 months, to the year, 5 years. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to put it for the 5 years, because at the 5-year mark, we get to see this. It was pretty steady here in 2020 before the conflict. This horn that you see here on your screen is when the first package of the new conflict started. Like the biggest packages were in March 2022, and actually the sanctions, I don't know, I guess it did something in the beginning, and then they started to adjust. It went up to 133 rubles for the dollar, which was a significant rise. Now, what does it do after that in 2022? Well, it goes back down to 50, right? But towards 2023, it does go back up, but it closes the year at around 70 rubles in 2023. Now, what I'm assuming is that maybe 1 year ago, they were probably thinking that 73 was a lot, but no, because later in the year, in the beginning of 2023, it was not that much. And then it rose and it rose until in the month of October in 2023 is when it reaches 100. So that's the second crash. So remember, the first crash in 2022 is in March, where it goes over 130 rubles, and then it goes back down, but then it rises back up. It doesn't quite hit 100 in August. It hits 100 in October 6th. That is the second crash. And now we fast forward again. You can see it's steady, it's steady, it's steady. And then it's rising back up again. And it actually hits 100 somewhere in the late to middle of November. And those are your three crashes. But if we put this at max, I think it's going to make you understand exactly how the Russian economy has been working ever since it's begun its different conflicts, and when the United States and the world started sanctioning it, which actually was not in 2022. For the people that know a little bit of history, Russia's been sanctioned for much longer, and I'm going to put that map to the max so you can see where actually it did start to go down in value versus the dollar. please do me a favor and comment below if you would consider what's been happening. For the first 3 examples, I told you the 3 crashes, the 3 collapses. Would you even consider that a collapse of an economy? Because a lot of the people who report on it will say Russia's finished, the economy is done, Russia is going to cease to exist. What is your opinion on the way they actually report about this? Tell me down below what your opinion is on this. I'm really interested in knowing, because there's going to be another crash. There's going to be another collapse. There will be content being pushed out by other people. I am in the middle of this. I mean, I don't choose a side. I didn't study economics. I'm telling you I'm ignorant. I want to know your opinion. Now let's look at the maximum graphs of the ruble versus the dollar. This is where you get to see the real trends. If you zoom out and you look at this map, guys, this is one that's really going to tell you what's been happening, right? Can you imagine that in 2024, $1 got you 29 rubles? And then in all the way up to 2008, it looks like it's steady at 20 rubles, from 28 to 24 rubles. From 2005 to 2008, it looked steady, right? And then it went up. Perhaps then in 2009, they might have said, hey, there's a crash going on. The Russian economy is burnt out. It's over. But no, Russia continued and it survived from 2009 all the way to 2014. This is where we get to see the big jump. Right before 2014, well, towards the later months of 2014, that's essentially when the first package of sanctions started on Russia. And you can clearly see it here on this graph here of the dollar versus the ruble, because actually, even though people say that sanctions don't work, let's be honest, it does change the way your economy works. It does change the way your country has to work. But actually, you know, it doesn't really destroy an economy like Russia, because Russia actually is a massive country that is very resilient, and its people are very resilient, and its government is there to try to survive anything that the world throws at it. Again, I am not Russian. I am just looking at the graph. They were not destroyed in 2014 with the sanctions.
Today I'm announcing a series of measures that will continue to increase the costs on Russia and on those responsible for what is happening in Ukraine. First, as authorized by the executive order I signed 2 weeks ago, we are imposing sanctions on specific individuals responsible for undermining the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and government of Ukraine. We're making it clear that there are consequences for their actions. Second, I have signed a new executive order that expands the scope of our sanctions. As an initial step, I'm authorizing sanctions on Russian officials, entities operating in the arms sector in Russia, and individuals who provide material support to senior officials of the Russian government. And if Russia continues to interfere in Ukraine, we stand ready to impose further sanctions.
That is right, guys. So that was 10 years ago, right? And now we're starting to see the trends, right? Now we know that actually when we look at the graph there and it shows you how much rubles you can get for the dollar, it correlates with the sanctions. In September 12th, 2014, that's when the package was passed. Let's go look at the graph to see exactly if it's changing anything. Now, I'm going to be showing you the inversion, right? So if we want to see what the sanctions did on September 12th in 2014 and how the ruble's value started going down, I've inverted the graph here for you so you can see how many rubles it takes to buy $1. Now, on September 13th, 2014, this is one day after the sanctions, you can start to see this huge dip, right? A dip in the ruble in 2014 because of the sanctions. But then it stabilizes. I mean, it goes up and it just kind of stabilizes this entire time from 2016 to 2021. Before the other conflict, it was pretty much stable, not that major, but you do get to see the dip starting when those sanctions were imposed. The trade was for 26 rubles for $1 at the time. Now, I wanted to show you the inversion of this so you can see actually how the ruble was devalued, but it didn't die. Now we have to fast forward to today because we're in the present time. Now I'm making this video because I don't want anybody to be alarmed. I again don't know if it's going to collapse. I again don't know if this is the end of the Russian economy, but I wanted to show you the trends, and now I want to show you what may come in the future, because every time we get to 100 rubles, apparently the Russian economy is collapsing, the ruble is done, it's over. So actually what I wanted to do is go on Google, and actually YouTube rather, and I wanted to show you there's going to be videos posted. Is the Russian economy finally set to crumble? This is 1 day ago. Russian ruble collapses below 100. This is 1 day ago, 139,000 views. This crazy woman here from Ukraine talking about the Russian collapsing, okay? And these are all frequent, like these are pretty frequent videos from this guy who talks about the Russian ruble collapsing, but you're going to start seeing more videos, right? There's going to be more videos of the Russian ruble collapsing because it's going to catch into a trend. It's going to take a few days for the people to notice that it's over 100 again, and I don't want anybody to get alarmed. That's the reason why this video is being made. I know that the title maybe triggers you. I know that maybe it bothers you, right? Oh, you're a Russian hater. No, guys, I live in Russia. I've had to live through the sanctions. I've had to go through now 3 collapses of the Russian economy. I want you to understand the trends. I will say, by the way, that yes, there is ways that Russia has been fixing its inflation, and all of these things is happening through different avenues. We do know that Russia is rising interest rates on mortgages. We do know that Russia has extended its trade with other countries. This is ways that it's either fixed its economy or leveled it out. What Russia does with its economy is unique to Russia because only Russia knows what it can do to sustain itself as a sovereign nation. A lot of people who study economics will go out there and say, this is what has to happen because naturally this is what would happen to an economy if this were to happen, if X were to happen. But you can't really solve for X when X is Russia, right? Russia is such a unique country because it's unlike any other country in the world. It's the size of Pluto. It's the size of planets or exoplanets. So just keep that in mind. Again, I want nobody to panic. There is things that go into keeping the economy afloat here in Russia. They did raise the wages here in Russia. Things actually do cost a little bit more in Russia, but it's not drastic. I remember in the United States, when President Joe Biden did something weird, I forgot what he did. Gasoline prices in the United States, in my state, went up $2 to $3. That is not something that you see here in Russia. There's no drastic change of prices. As far as I'm concerned, I've lived here for 2 years, and I believe that the gasoline, the petrol, the benzene has gone up maybe 2 to 3 rubles, if that, in this region. So maybe let's just say 5 rubles. And that's all, right? So there's not drastic change for the common man. That's basically my input from living here. This is what I've seen. Now, I've lived in Russia since 2022, and another trend that I've realized that is absolutely true, and I can prove this, is the resilience of the Russian people. Now, forget about the economy, forget about the government. The people have taken so much on their back here in Russia, and it's so commendable. The Russian people are basically carrying the world on their shoulders because, I mean, believe it or not, the sanctions, the hate, it does get here to Russia. People do feel it when they can't travel outside of Russia, when they can't buy things outside of Russia. It does weigh on the people. I have many Russian friends who have lived through not only these packages of sanctions, but the 2014 ones, friends who lived through the 90s in Russia. These people have survived so much. I hope that this video has not triggered anyone. This video is not meant to talk about like economics and, this is not a scientific post that I'm making. I'm talking about trends, things that we can see, things that we can feel. I've lived through the sanctions, like I've said, and 3 times now I've heard that the Russian economy is going to collapse. 3 times now I've heard that the Russian ruble is done. And actually I'm making this video ahead of time because in the future, maybe in the next week, maybe in the next month, the ruble will continue to go down in value and you will be able to trade $1 for 120, 130, who knows where it will go. But what I do know is that the Russian people will be able to take it. The Russian people will really work hard to persevere through all of the BS that's happening, right? And I myself, I'm not going to simply pack up and leave just because I think that Russia is done. I have my wife here. I have my father-in-law here. I have chosen to put my pants on like a man and put my boots and go out there and grind every day and try to provide some videos so that you also are not scared of traveling to Russia. I'm not gaining anything from this. I'm not a Putin bot here. I'm just telling you the facts all the way from Irkutsk Oblast. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye-bye.